a Data East Simpsons MPU sent with the description that the lower display was scrambled. And sure enough, the lower display I can see how somebody would think it was scrambled. Because without I'll say the internal segments that are showing now, it would look scrambled. In fact, let me just power off and I'll show you what it looks like. Well, the first thing I notice is that the internal segments are being displayed, but the perimeter segments, those being, let's see if you look on the right here, A, B, C, D through G, those are not being displayed. So I'm going to get into display test. Once again, here you can see that the outer perimeter segments are not being displayed. And once you get into display test, it's quite clearly obvious. In fact, let me see if I can stop this. Man, Data East, they're just killing me. But all the internal segments are being displayed. It's possible that segment G, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, on a 16 alphanumeric is not being displayed. So A through G are not being displayed. So if we hop down to the schematics, the way that Data East put these displays together is all the digit strobes come out of connector 3 and connector 2. The segment strobes come out of the ribbon, which is generally referred to as CN22. So you've got segments A through G, and those are for the top display. And here's segments H through R. Again, let's see. I'm going to say for the top display. It may be for the bottom display also. I'm not sure about that. But over here, these are the segments A through G for the bottom display. And if we backtrack through here, it's probable that the 682111B is non-functional. It could be that the pull-up resistor SIP at RA3 is non-functional, but that's improbable. Let's, just for giggles, let's do some logic probing on this. You know, I always have trouble figuring out which is pin 1. So this is pin 1. And it's pulsing, but that's not a segment drive. So let's see, here's pin 2, nothing going on there. 3, nothing going on. So let's go to 11B, and its pins 10 through 17 should be doing something. So I'll backtrack to make the counting easier. 20, 19, 18, 17 is doing something. 16 dead, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10 are dead. So 10 through 16 were dead. 17 is pin 1, which does nothing for the displays, or it doesn't provide a signal for the displays. So what we have here is a malfunctioning 6821. Just putting my fingers on both of these at the same time to see if I can see if one's hotter. Yeah, this one is clearly hotter. Get another finger on here. Oh, man, I wish I played guitar. Okay. I've got my finger in the center of these chips. And yeah, this one's definitely hotter to the touch. I bet if I put my thermal camera on there, it would be significantly hotter. It's not worth that though. Time to pull that chip out, socket it, and replace it. Got my Neolock tester. I think Lockwinlit still sells these. It's kind of a nice tool for verifying your theories. Let's see about this PIA. And yeah, right away we get a failure on it. So that confirms our suspicion that this 6821 has failed. Back with this Data East MPU, and I have cleanly removed the 6821 at 11B and replaced it with an NOS 6821. I modified a couple of other things that I do matter of course on Data East CPUs. One is I replaced this 47 microfarad cap that's critical in the reset section of the PCB, and I replaced this 470 microfarad cap that's in the 5-volt power circuit, and I replaced CN17, which is 5, 12, minus 12, and plus 12 voltage in. The reason I bend those over is so that you can see, or the client can see, that they have been replaced and there's no leaking under those caps. As these two caps, I have seen them leak on a number of occasions. This one prevents reset from working, and this one just honks up a whole bunch of stuff. Like I replaced, or I had a board in the other day that this whole area was corroded because of the electrolyte, I guess, that leaks out of this thing. So, did that correct the display problem? Clearly it did. Let me see if I can get some shade on that. And we'll test the rest of this. That would be prudent to do. So, let me get my green light on. And here we go. I do have my Simpsons sound card attached. You can see all those segments are lighting, so that's a good initial indication. Boy, sometimes Data East, they make you wait a certain number of seconds. Let's see, let's test the speakers before you can press another button. Now, you guys probably can't hear that, but I could hear that difference. Let's make sure that the voices, etc., are being commanded correctly. And all of those come out of this smaller ribbon connector. Display test, much better. No longer scrambled. Let's test the switches. Simpsons reports all 64 switches, so I can go through the diagonal of the switch matrix and make sure those are all operating. And they are. Let's test the lamps. Interesting, this is the same lamp matrix test that they continued on through Saga and White Star. Rows, columns, individual lamps. I'm going to skip that part. The flash lamps. This logic probe out of the way. And these are the or I guess one side of the multiplexed lamps. Coils. So the yellow LED that's lighting at solenoid 10 is the AC select relay. Simpsons doesn't use 5C, so that was normal for the red one to be skipped. Now you have to watch closely as we go through the non-multiplexed solenoids and then over to the special solenoids. This is a nice clean board. We can also drive these via the switch inputs, and even though I don't think they are on the Simpsons, it's nice to have the switch input connection working. So this board's good to go. This one's going back to Arcade Rescue 911. I like that sticker you guys use after I take it outside and wash off all the residual solder flux that comes from my Kester no clean solder. Even though it's called no clean, there's still some cleaning if you really want to do a professional job. Thank you so much for sending it. That was an interesting board to be able to demonstrate how segments and digits work. In fact, let me follow up. these schematics that I was looking at are from a Last Action Hero, so the connections or the pinouts at CN22 for segments A through G for the top display are actually here, but of course, since Last Action Hero is a DMD game, they're not noted there. But if I go over to actual Simpsons schematics, you can see that on CN22, player 1 and 2 segments are all on the sort of the top half of this connector, and the player 3 and 4 segments, RNP, etc., are on the lower half of the connector. And of course, this is the ribbon, and these were the internal segments that were working correctly. The segments that were not working correctly were coming off of CN3, which of course I backtracked to the 6821 at 11B. All right, that wraps her up. Thank you so much.